So first we're going to cover What If. New episode is next Wednesday. Most recent episode was yesterday. We record on Thursdays. This was my least favorite episode of What If so far. Just want to throw that out right away. I didn't like the first episode too much, but this one, in my opinion, was worse. It was good, but it was closer to okay than good for me. It was predictable, and it just didn't have like a ton of original storyline.
Right.
It was basically retelling the same story like the first episode.
The one thing I do really like about it is that you have the scene from Incredible Hulk where he's at the campus.
Sure.
Right? You have that scene. That has never been tied to the MCU.
Right. Yeah, so people forget Incredible Hulk was the first movie.
Yeah. BuzzFeed.
BuzzFeed thinks it's Iron Man.
Yeah. So, but it showed that essentially at that same time where Hawkeye was looking at Thor, right? Where Iron Man was hungover or whatever, and they met him at the diner. Cap's still frozen at this point. But then Banner, that whole Incredible Hulk scene, Banner was at that campus. So like that, all that stuff is happening at the same time, which you don't know that.
A lot of people don't notice that until this show.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool.
For those who don't know, the episode was titled something like "What If Earth Lost Its Greatest Heroes?" Yeah. So basically, what if? Spoiler alert. What if all the primary Avenger heroes died? And that was the whole... Cap. And that was the whole premise of the episode. It starts with Tony in that diner, and he's hungover, and Natasha. I always want to say Sasha. Natasha and Nick Fury go to help him with his hangover and then talk to him about joining the Avengers and joining S.H.I.E.L.D. However, when they shoot him with the antidote, he dies.
Yep. And
Tony Stark dies, and then... Black Widow is wanted for his murder. And right there I was like, that's weird. There's got to be something in that antidote, or this time he reacted to the injection or something. And I was like, that's a weird. Sure. Then after that, it was Thor reshooting from the first episode where Mjolnir shows up across the, what is that called?
They're in like Australia.
I know, but what's that beam of light called from Thor?
The Bifrost.
Yeah, the Bifrost. The Mjolnir comes through with Thor, and Thor goes and tries to break into the S.H.I.E.L.D. facility. And when Hawkeye's aiming at him like he was in the first movie, when he's told to stand down, he lets go and shoots Thor and kills him.
Yeah.
The arrow that hits Thor kills him instead while he's reaching for Mjolnir.
Yeah.
And right there I was like... Okay, so there's probably something chemical that was injected into Hawkeye or something.
The one issue I had with this is you've seen Thor Ragnarok, and in Thor Ragnarok he doesn't have Mjolnir.
Yep.
It got shattered by Hela.
Yep.
And he goes toe to toe with Hulk.
Yeah.
And barely gets scratched. You're telling me he gets yeeted against walls, he gets punched multiple times, and his skin can't break from that. But then he gets shot by like a human arrow, and he just dies. Like that arrow, like if it was vibranium, possibly, because vibranium's from outer space, vibranium probably could pierce his skin. But like that didn't make sense to me. How just a normal arrow could kill Thor. So
my thing is, when Thor is stripped of his power, like being not worthy of Mjolnir, the first thing that Odin does is he has those circles on his chest, and I believe that's him stripping Thor of his superhuman strength, and it's stripping Thor of his elemental abilities of lightning and those sorts of things. So I believe each one is ripping out his powers, which is why he's like, when Odin does that to him. And then the final part is whispering into Mjolnir that whoever's worthy may hold this hammer. So I think he was able to get killed by Hawkeye because he was completely stripped of... So he was a mortal human when he landed on Earth.
Yeah, but he still has Guardian.
Right, but I think that strips from his Asgard. Like, that stripped... Like, when he landed on Earth, he was Midgardian. He was no longer Asgardian. That's how I take it.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're right, it makes no sense.
Yeah, okay.
Then, while Hawkeye is being held in his cell for murder of this guy that they don't know who it is, he dies in his cell surprisingly, like randomly, and it was right there. It was while Hawkeye was laying in his cell. I said, "This is Ant-Man." I was like, Ant-Man is killing all these people. I was like, Ant-Man was in the syringe. I was like, Ant-Man was in the syringe, and then I was like, Ant-Man would be small enough to shoot the arrow.
Sure.
And then I was like, an Ant-Man would have been small enough to break Clint's neck or something undetected on camera. And I was like, this is Ant-Man. And like that was the point where I thought it was Ant-Man. While they were they were doing research or in the library or something like Black Widow, they were doing something. Just wanted to throw this like little Easter egg out there. There was a pizza place called Stanley's Pizza Parlor. That was
at Betty Ross's
okay
thing, because there's like pizza stuff, and he's like, "Are you hungry, Betty?" or something like that.
But that was a shout out to Stan Lee, one of the co-creators of Marvel. Rest in peace. But then after
Rest in pizza.
Rest in pizza, Stanley.
Yeah.
But then after later in the episode, Loki shows up. He comes with the entire Asgardian army, with the Warriors 3 looking for whoever killed Thor, and they want to kill whoever killed Thor. And Nick Fury says, we're on the same boat. We also are looking for who killed our agents, because the person who killed Thor also killed our people. Then Loki says, you have 24 hours basically until I destroy your entire planet. Oh yeah, and now since Thor is dead, Loki is considered the crown prince of Asgard. He is now the direct lineage to the throne, which is why the end of the episode makes less sense to me, because you'll find out that in a little bit. Then they move on to
Banner,
and General Ross is there, and so Black Widow shows up at the college, the university of where Liv Tyler was the original actress. Betty Ross was helping Banner, and when Widow goes there, she goes to just talk to Ross, but then finds out that Banner is there.
Because she was looking for Banner, and then she's like, wait,
she was looking for Banner. And Banner, when they find Banner, Banner comes out. General Ross shows up at the university. They have a whole bunch of soldiers there to collect Black Widow and Banner. And it appears that Banner is shot in the arm by a soldier, and that made him angry and turns him into Hulk to go fight everybody. When that happened, I thought that was Ant-Man again. I was like, yep. That like confirmed to me this is Ant-Man. Ant-Man is for some reason evil.
Another little thing, if that technically is like the same scene as in the Incredible Hulk, Emil Blonsky should have been there, all super soldiers serumed up too. Like, he technically should have been there because he gets tossed against a tree and everyone presumes he's dead, but then he heals super quickly, and then
because he's a super soldier.
Yeah, and they're like, he wants more, and then he turns into 8-Bomb. But Emil Blonsky should have been there too.
Maybe they couldn't get the actor, or this is a different universe, so they didn't have to put him in there. Yeah. Something easy like that. But anyway, so it turns out that this was Ant-Man. It's just not Paul Rudd's.
Not Scott
Lang. It is Hank Pym, who has turned himself into the new Yellow Jacket. He's got
the Yellow Jacket armor.
He no longer is Ant-Man for good. He is now Yellow Jacket for evil. We'll tell you why in a little bit, but he killed Tony Stark by going inside the syringe and then killing Tony from the inside. He killed Thor by
punching Hawkeye.
He caused Hawkeye to let go and misfire. He went inside. They didn't show how he killed Hawkeye, but it appeared as if he flew out of his ear, so we're assuming he went inside and did something with his brain, severed a spinal cord or something like that. Yeah. Killed him that way, and then you find out he went inside of Bruce Banner's
that's what the
arms.
Gunshot looked like.
That's why it looked like a gunshot, and then he used Hank's Pym particles on Bruce Banner's heart, and it causes Hulk to implode and die.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so Widow goes into a like an old abandoned library, which I assume was probably they had an old like SHIELD computer there where she could access files.
Yeah.
And she's obviously wanted for Tony Stark's murder, so she can't get into those secret files. So she calls Coulson, is like, Coulson, I need your help. And Coulson's like, you're not trusted by S.H.I.E.L.D., whatever. And Natasha goes, Clint was my friend too. Like, we're my friends too. And then Coulson says, all right, my password is Steve, I love Steve 0704.
Yes.
So
he also, earlier in the episode, called Thor very attractive and said he smelled him incredible, even dead.
And then Hawkeye was like, oh, he does have great hair.
Yeah.
But
so he loves Steve, and 7/4 is probably July 4th for Captain America, Independence Day. But anyway.
And then Natasha feels someone creeping up on her, and turns around, talks to them, and then proceeds to just get her butt handed to her by an invisible force. But it turns out it's just a very small
person
force. Yeah,
it's Hank Pym, who is now Yellow Jacket. And we found out Hank dies.
Oh, yeah, and then at that point, she tries to call Fury. She tries to call Fury, and she's like, "Hope! It's all about hope."
Right, and the hope she's referring to, which, if you are a fan of Ant-Man or know the comics, you know Hank Pym's daughter's name is Hope. So at that point, it should have been pretty clear to most people that this is Ant-Man. But now you know it's Hank Pym, not Scott Lang. But yeah, it turns out that Hope must have been working for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep, because it says Agent Hope, or like they refer to her, she's just an agent or something like that.
Right. So in this world, this universe, she works for S.H.I.E.L.D., which it makes sense because Pym Particles have been Pym Industries have worked with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, and he had a huge falling out with S.H.I.E.L.D. Over Howard Stark wanted to do something with Pym Particles, but in this universe, it probably was Hope got killed some way.
Right.
In a S.H.I.E.L.D. mission. And
so that's the big difference between this universe and our universe is like S.H.I.E.L.D. and Pym working together. Hope dies, never becomes Wasp. Yeah. And instead of Scott Lang ever becoming Ant-Man, the Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, becomes Yellow Jacket. So David Cross never becomes Yellow Jacket.
Scott Lang never becomes Ant-Man. We don't get those heroes.
Also, throughout the episode, there's fade out shots. Every single one of them has the Watcher in the sky. And I thought those shots were really cool, just to remind you that the Watcher is always paying attention and watching different universes all at once. Just really cool cinematic views were really fun. And probably my favorite part of the episode was the Loki disguised as Nick Fury fighting Hank Pym.
I knew that's how it was going to. I was like, Fury couldn't be able to, like, he wouldn't have the Asgardian. Right. Yeah.
And the Watcher shots. Right. But then, Loki then fights Pym. After they all come to the conclusion, they realize it's Hank when Nick is like, oh, Hope Van Dyne.
Nick figures it out. He goes to the Destroyer and is like, I need to talk to your boss.
And he tells Loki, I know who killed Thor.
I need your help.
And then Loki fights him. And then Loki decides after beating Hank Pym, instead of going back to Asgard, I'm going to rule Earth. Yeah. And then he stays and takes over. He's like at a United Nations meeting and decides, I'm here to be your new ruler because you guys need ruling. Yeah. And so in order to fight Loki, Nick Fury calls Captain Marvel.
And then he goes and gets Captain America.
And he goes and grabs Captain America, and the episode ends with him looking at Cap's shield and talking to Captain Marvel.
And Captain Marvel's like, who do we gotta fight? Or
who do we gotta fight?
And so I guess the biggest thing is like, most of these What If episodes, since they're so short, it makes me like want more.
That episode needed 30 more minutes minimum.
So now I'm telling myself, much like the first one, much like the first episode, when it was Captain Carter and Hawkeye, I was like, who would be on this new team to fight Loki? So it'd be Captain America, Captain Marvel, who else? So
yeah, I agree. What If needs some longer. It has me wanting more because of the shorter episodes. They try to shove it all in. It just doesn't work. And T'Challa's episode was like well done and perfectly done. That could have even been longer, but the first and third episodes clearly were rushed to try to fit that shorter episode timeline. The last little thing we have about What If was actually a question that you saw on the internet, that somebody said that T'Challa's Star-Lord
was just a straight up statement by them.
was better than Peter Quill's Star-Lord.
Yeah, T'Challa's Star-Lord was better in one What If episode than Peter Quill's Star-Lord in 4 movies.
Right. And you disagree.
I did.
I disagree. But the main reason you disagreed was you had a few reasons.
Well, I mean, like, T'Challa never went through what Peter went through. So, like, Peter lost his mom due to cancer. Due to cancer. And then he gets taken by the Ravagers. The Ravagers don't... Like, Peter Quill probably has no idea what's going on. Yondu takes advantage of that and basically trains him in the ways of the Ravagers. His dad's not a egomaniacal...
Ego.
Celestial. He doesn't meet the Guardians of the he meets the Guardians of the Galaxy, where T'Challa goes through none of that.
And T'Challa's already like a full raised royal, taught well by a king who was trained. He was next in line to be king in a extremely advanced society.
Yeah.
So yeah, he started off better than Peter. And it's not as well developed as of a character.
Yeah.
Because the only reason that person thinks T'Challa is better is they either don't like Chris Pratt, that's probably part of it,
Yeah.
but also because they know what T'Challa is like as Black Panther.
Yeah.
So they think about Black Panther, they think about Chadwick Boseman, and they think about how good that episode was.
Right.
What they don't think about is, like, you need tragedy to reach comedy and success.
Yeah, and for T'Challa, it was losing his dad.
We don't have that in Star-Lord.
Losing T'Chaka.
So T'Challa as Star-Lord was just nothing but good. There
Yeah.
was no bad.
Yeah.
There's nothing bad, which is wonderful and great.
Where Star-Lord's
but-
also, like, lost everything.
right. Star-Lord goes through tons of ebbs and flows,
Yeah.
and which is what, in my opinion, makes him a better Star-Lord.
Sure.
And that is all we have for What If. We're going to move on to the next release.